This is the F50 League from Adidas, and it may have just set a new standard for takedown football boots. It's the third tier model from the new F50 series, and it's going to retail for $90, making it 1/3 the price of the $260 Elite version. And in this video, we're going to go over all the features of this new boot, and more importantly, I'll discuss why I think it's so good. And of course, at the end of the video, if you're interested in picking up a pair or any of the other boots that I recommend, you can find links to them on sale in the description below. So as we normally do, let's start off by talking about the design. The design of the new F50 League is impressive, and it bears a shocking resemblance to the design that you find on the premium F50 Elite. For starters, the upper on the F50 League here is extremely soft, and one of the only differences I can find between the upper on this boot and the premium model is that the premium version is going to be called Fiber Touch, whereas the League version is going to be called Fiber Skin. Other than that, they're both going to have a really soft synthetic feel to them that is better than almost any other synthetic upper I've felt. The only main difference is that the premium version is going to have some extra textured elements throughout the front of the upper, just to give you a little bit more grip on the ball. But that being said, the upper on the F50 League does have a slight stickiness to it, so you're still going to have a little bit of grip. And usually with cheaper synthetic uppers, especially ones you would find on third tier takedown boots, they can feel a little bit rigid, which can result in them bunching up on feet. But I have to emphasize that the upper on the F50 League here is really soft and also pliable. And for me, the design here actually stands out amongst the other options at the third tier from Adidas, like the Copa Pure League as well as the Predator League. And that's quite a statement in and of itself, because those two boots are pretty decent options as it is. Now, throughout the center of the boot here, you're going to have a simple traditional open lacing system that's really similar to the system you'd find on the more expensive versions of the F50. And that lacing system here is going to run pretty deep towards the toe box, so it's going to give you a lot of adjustability in width throughout the boot. And then one thing that's really interesting that Adidas has implemented with the tongue here is their new compression fit tunnel system. And that tunnel system implies exactly what you would expect, in that the soft tongue here actually wraps around and connects to the bottom of the boot. Now, I don't recall ever actually seeing a tongue that's designed like that, but I think it's a pretty cool feature. Now, it's really not going to have that much of an impact on how the boots actually feel when you have them on your feet. However, what it does is that it actually keeps the tongue really centered on the top of your foot, and that's something I actually like. And usually when you get to looking at the tongue of these third tier takedown boots, I feel like that's often where companies spend the least amount of time and energy. Oftentimes it can kind of just feel thrown together, but the tongue on the F50 League here is actually pretty premium. And honestly, I think it actually has a little bit more softness and some substance to it compared to the tongue that you get on the Elite model. Now, towards the heel area of the boot, you're definitely going to have quite a decent amount of padding. It doesn't feel bulky by any means, but it's definitely going to be thick enough to prevent you from getting any blisters or irritation towards the back of the boot. Now, turning over to the sole plate, you can see these are already getting discolored from when I played in them earlier this week, but the sole plate is going to feature an MG stud configuration. And for those who don't know, that MG stands for multi-ground, and it means that the sole plate is intended for use on artificial grass as well as firm ground natural grass. And because this is an MG sole plate, you're going to see it features both conical studs as well as sharper bladed studs towards the forefoot and some in the heel area. And I think this was a great decision for the sole plate because it makes the boots really versatile, and it means you can play with them on a variety of surfaces. Next up, let's talk about the fit and feel. The F50 League might be the most comfortable pair of third tier takedowns I've ever tried on. And Adidas actually have a really strong track record with their takedown boots within the past year, because the Copa Pure League was a decent model and the Predator League was also solid as well. But with the F50, they've definitely taken things up a notch. Now, I got these in my standard 10.5 US, and I found that the length was perfect. And while I do have pretty wide feet, I found that the toe box here was pretty average in width and was definitely wide enough to accommodate my feet. And that lacing system running through the center of the boot is going to give you a ton of adjustability, so I think regardless of your foot shape, most players are going to find these comfortable. And not only is the heel area really soft and padded, but it's also deep, which is an issue that a lot of Adidas takedowns had in the past, where sometimes they felt so shallow that your heel was just slipping out of the boots. Whereas in the F50 League here, the combination of that heel area and the lacing system running pretty high up the ankle is going to give you a ton of lockdown, and your feet are going to be really secure. And once I got these boots on feet, I actually found that they flex pretty well when you are walking and running. And so you don't really get that feeling of the upper creasing into the top of your feet, which you do with some other models. And after wearing these for well over an hour, I didn't feel any pressure points towards the heel, midfoot, or the toe box. Now, some players who have really wide fit may prefer to go with an option from New Balance or Mizuno, but I definitely think for most players, these would offer a really comfortable fit. Next up, let's talk about what they were like to play in. At just $90, the F50 leagues from Adidas actually feel like a top-end speed boot. Whether you're juggling, dribbling, or shooting, these boots don't feel cheap at all. And because the upper is pretty razor thin, it's gonna give you a close, barefoot-like sensation on the ball. Now, for players that want a ton of padding and added protection on their boots, this isn't gonna offer that, but if you want a closer, more second skin-like feel, this is definitely gonna give you that sensation. Also, the upper has a nice subtle texturing to it that gives you just enough grip on the ball without feeling overly sticky. And so you're not going to have the issue of the ball getting stuck under your feet when you're dribbling. And because that fiber skin upper is really thin and flexible, it does a good job moving with your feet while you're playing so that it doesn't cause you any irritation. And then in terms of the sole plate here, I think Adidas actually executed really well on this MG stud configuration. Now, I played with these boots on artificial grass, and I felt that the stud configuration was safe for me, and the boots allowed for a lot of free rotation in the ground. And I think that's mostly because the studs that are typically in contact with the ground are going to be these conical ones at the edge of the midfoot, and then these sharper, more bladed studs at the front of the boot are really only in contact when you're pushing off for a sprint. So regardless of the playing surface you're on, the F50 League should be a safe option. Next up, let's talk about the value of these boots. The F50 League does have a launch retail price of $90, which could seem like a lot because typically third tier takedowns from previous years have been between $70 and $80. But honestly, even with that $90 price tag, I still think that these are a great deal, especially when you consider the quality of this boot and how well it compares to the premium version. And speaking of how this boot compares, let's talk about the main competitors to the F50 League. The $100 price point is a pretty competitive area for football boots, and that's where the F50 League is going to be competing. But at $90, I think this boot is going to be a better deal in terms of comfort and quality compared to the Predator League, the Copa Pure League, and the Puma Future Match. In fact, I think the only third tier takedown boot that's going to rival the F50 League is the Vapor 15 Academy from Nike. Now, honestly, the third tier takedowns of the F50 and the Vapor 15 are both so good, so you can't really go wrong either way. And they also have really similar feature sets, including a thin upper with a traditional lacing system. But for me personally, I think the softness of the upper that you get with the F50 League takes it slightly over the edge. Even compared to the $100 Copa Gloro, which is the classic leather football boot from Adidas, I think I actually prefer the fit of the $90 F50 Leagues. So if you're looking for a new pair of football boots under $100, it's going to be hard to do better than these. So what are my final thoughts on the F50 League? Well, to put it simply, Adidas killed it with this model, and they've set the bar really high for future third tier takedowns. And they've also set the bar really high for the premium F50 Elite that I'm going to be reviewing in the next couple days. Because for nearly $200 extra, it's going to have to really pack a punch to bring more value than the F50 Leagues. And that is going to do it for this video. Please let me know in the comments if you have gotten the chance to try on these boots and what you think of them. Also, if there's any other boots you're interested in me reviewing, let me know in the comments below as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and subscribe to support the channel, and I will see you in the next one.